like, well, I have this hobby and, I spend a fair amount of money on this. And I'm like, okay,
Good.
that's fine. I mean, that's fine, and we're going to bake that into your spending plan. I don't really do budgets with people. I like to do spending plans. Um, and we'll just put that in the plan. I mean, if it's
Yeah.
important to you and that's where you want to spend your money. So anyway, I think that that's one aspect of it, but a lot of that advice, I just don't think that it's helpful. And I think it's different even for men and women. I mean, men, you see them on videos and they're standing in front of really nice cars and there's this push to go big, right? Like make
Yeah.
lots of money.
Yeah.
And women, when it comes to, building wealth, it's really about scaling back and shrinking your way to wealth. And that is not a good long-term
Interesting.
strategy
Yeah.
because women are probably going to be on their own financially for many more years.
Hello, my extraordinary women friends. This girl is about to jump out of the snowy spring day and head somewhere warm. My husband and I are joining my brother in law in the Bahamas to do some island hopping aboard a 45-foot sailboat and enjoy the sunshine. It's been a great kickoff to 2024. Amazing client time, great connections and collaborations. And I am ready to leave behind the melting ice and put my toes into some warm sand and play in the water. By the time this hits you, hopefully we'll be well into spring here in Colorado. But right now, I'm excited for a little ocean adventure. That brings so much joy to me. Speaking of joy, I've been spending lots of magical time with my Soul Plus Strategy Mastermind clients, witnessing their incredible journeys. One of the things I've been noticing lately is my own joy. You know, that goosebump kind, when my clients refind the joy in their business. I think a lot of people went into survive mode these past few years, and it's so time to step out of just surviving and instead joyfully thriving. I see my clients falling back in love with their businesses. Sometimes it's sparking the joy with how they're delivering their products. Other times adding in new product lines that simply lights them up. Other times it's leaving behind some of the old successes for new successes. In all cases, it sparks with inner work, listening to what the heart and soul is calling for in our businesses. If you've been having curious thoughts, new ideas, big or small, and a calling for something more in your business, let's have a chat. One of my superpowers is helping bring those ideas to life. I invite you to apply for one of my Raise Up strategy sessions at cammygellner.com/apply. Let's unlock the magic that is awaiting within you. Today, I am thrilled to have my friend Amy Westbrook with us. Amy is a transformational wealth coach and creator of the Neuro-Wealth Success System. With a heart-centered approach, Amy combines innovative tools and advanced personal development to help growth-minded women and their partners break through barriers and achieve extraordinary success faster, easier, and without the overwhelm. She's here to show us how to see our full potential with greater clarity, empower our thoughts, and maximize strategies to design an aligned life, which really means living a joyous, prosperous life without guilt, fear, or regret. I see a theme here, right? Join us as we dive into Amy's transformative insights and learn how to create a life of financial independence and opportunity. Let's meet Amy Westbrook. Well, welcome to Extraordinary Women Radio, Amy. I'm so excited to finally get you on here.
Yay, I'm excited too. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know why I haven't gotten you on here before, but I love what you talk about. I love to talk about money, and this is going to be a fun talk.
Yeah,
So,
sounds good.
yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you came into this world of offering both life coaching and wealth coaching, and how did you find that combo that really fit for you? I mean, tell us your story, your personal story.
Yeah, and like a lot of women's businesses, I mean, it evolved over time.
Yeah.
From my corporate career, I actually started out as a life coach because I mean, and I loved it. I enjoyed it. But what I found is a lot of folks were saying, "Gosh, that vision, that sounds so good, but I could never afford to do that." Like
Yeah.
they didn't have the financial
Yeah.
confidence
Yeah.
or the financial skills to move forward. And it turns out I'm pretty good with money. I like talking about money. And this is not something that came naturally. I just want to put that caveat out there. that
Okay.
I had to teach myself. Even though I had an MBA, I didn't understand really personal finance. I didn't have, I'd say, good habits around personal finance. So I
Yeah.
just started getting books at the library and teaching myself that. And I started investing, and that led to investment in real estate, investment in the market. And I was doing pretty good. And I became a mentor to a lot of women in my corporate job. And I thought, that's the hang up for folks that I'm working with. Why am I not offering the money coaching side inside of the life coaching? So anyway, I decided that it's time to combine the two. And just like the universe does when you make those big decisions in your life, it lined up right behind me. And I was contacted by Capital One about, I think, 3 days later that said, we're looking for life coaches that want to be money coaches.
Oh my gosh. No way.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't have written it any better. So, yeah, that started that journey. And then I was very limited in what I could do at Capital One and what I could say and how I could work with people. And it was just a little too limiting for me. And they're like, we
Yeah.
want you to go full time. And I'm like, oh goodness, no. Like, like a lot of entrepreneurs, I sort of felt unemployable at that point. So I just decided to go full on into the money coaching and life coaching.
Oh, that's awesome. And I mean,
Yeah.
it makes so much sense because there's so many money stories around. I mean, we all have our money stories, right? We all have the stories that we've grown up with that really shape how we deal with money. And so it does become very much about life coaching.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's my whole philosophy is money is an inside out job.
Hmm.
And I know a lot of people would disagree with me, but I believe that about 80% of it is the internal thinking, and that's not just mindset. It goes a little bit deeper than that. And then about 20 of it percent of it is the work that you do. It's math. I mean, if you have a cell phone, you
Yeah.
probably have what you need to do the math to be good with
Yeah.
money.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. But 80% of it is really about what goes on up here in our heads and
Yeah.
starting to shift those stories and change the words that we use and
Yeah.
all of that, right?
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So
Thanks.
the statistics around money. Hey Andy, cut that part out. um the statistics around money seem to be getting worse, not better. What are we missing, and how do we flip that narrative around money for women?
Yeah, and I like that question, because I think it speaks to what, like we were just talking about, is we think that money is complicated, and look who's telling us that
Mm,
money's complicated, right?
right.
We're being told that it's complicated, and you need somebody to help you, and don't even bother trying to figure it out. And if you do try and figure it out, honestly, um, the internet can be really overwhelming. How do you curate, and believe the best advice? Like, who knows, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's really hard to find good advice that fits your particular situation. I mean, I understand that because I
Because
personally went through that myself.
there's a lot of generalization. Is that kind of
Mhm.
what you're talking about? It's like here's the things you should do, and a lot of shoulds, and a lot of linear, and a lot of that sort of thing versus actually getting into the person.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the where you should spend your money. I mean, that's one of my philosophies. People, even when I was at Capital One, like they'd show up and they would have shame, like, well, I have this hobby and, I spend a fair amount of money on this. And I'm like, okay,
Good.
that's fine. I mean, that's fine, and we're going to bake that into your spending plan. I don't really do budgets with people. I like to do spending plans. Um, and we'll just put that in the plan. I mean, if it's
Yeah.
important to you and that's where you want to spend your money. So anyway, I think that that's one aspect of it, but a lot of that advice, I just don't think that it's helpful. And I think it's different even for men and women. I mean, men, you see them on videos and they're standing in front of really nice cars and there's this push to go big, right? Like make
Yeah.
lots of money.
Yeah.
And women, when it comes to, building wealth, it's really about scaling back and shrinking your way to wealth. And that is not a good
Interesting.
long-term strategy
Yeah.
because women are probably going to be on their own financially for many more years. whether they're already on their own or, if their spouse passes first, it's much more likely um, that they're going to need their money to last.
Yeah.
And this shrink your way to wealth is really not the best strategy. And I just think that women are not getting the best advice.
I so
Yeah.
love this because it's when you think about that shrink your way to wealth, it's like you're
Mhm.
you're 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 getting into a scarcity of, a scarcity mindset versus
Yes.
opening up into an abundance mindset.
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem with budgets per se is, it's kind of like where you can and can't spend your money. Like it already feels limiting. A
Yeah.
spending plan is, kind of voting with your
Yeah.
dollars about where you want to get really excited and, where you want to spend in alignment with your values. It's just
Yeah.
a totally different mindset
Yeah.
when you're managing your money that way. So,
Yeah.
I find people, walking away from those sessions like excited and, I like talking about money now. And I'm like, yeah, money can be a lot of fun. It's one of the things that I talk about. Like, you, people mention adventure travel, and I'm like, well, let's do some adventure finance. Like, what's on
Yeah.
the bucket list? Let's make it
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
So,
What do you really
yeah,
want to do, and what excites you? Because at
yeah.
the end of the day, it's like it's a lot about bringing our joy out into life.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's where like you and I are totally aligned. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't have joy, and it's funny, a lot of folks will have a lot of money. Um, so they have wealth. They don't have the ability to experience wealth.
Mhm.
They will never feel wealthy
Yeah.
because they are in that lack mindset.
It's a
They're
big
so
difference.
fearful about holding on to that money.
And
It's
it
just
doesn't really matter what their bank accounts look like, but if you're in that frame of mind.
not at
It can
all.
it can be a very large bank account and still
Yeah.
have that mindset.
Yeah. I mean, and we're kind of talking about the statistics, and, I can see people that make four or five, $6,000 a month, and like they're happy and like the money's going towards what they really love.
Mhm.
I see people that make $80,000 a month and they're miserable.
Yeah.
And, they're trying to seek happiness outside of themselves. And
Mhm.
that's really why I say money is an inside out job.
Yeah.
And I love the life coaching component because it really pulls in the person. And that's really the first step. People can call and say, hey, I need a budget. And I'm like, well, time out. Maybe. Let's figure out what's going on there. And a lot
Yeah.
of times it's really more like the emotional spending, or like they're afraid to raise their prices.
Yeah.
Um, it's just those mental barriers
Yeah.
that they've got
Yeah.
that really is keeping them from living in the prosperity that they deserve.
Yeah. Oh, I so love this.
Yeah.
Um, how does being in alignment with our true self get us out of the hustle mode around money? And there's so much, especially in the entrepreneurial world, of people talking about the hustle to make everything happen. Here's the marketing. This is what I did to get here. I had to hustle.
Yeah.
How That is so anti what I stand for, and I know it's anti what you stand for.
Indeed.
Yeah. So how does being in alignment with ourself help us there?
Well, being in alignment with yourself, I mean, that's just really the key, I think, to creating flow, financial flow, life flow. And, inside of my coaching, flow kind of stands for something. It's fulfillment, first and foremost,
Hmm.
legacy, opportunity, and wealth. But it's really kind of in that order. I mean, when you're aligned with your values and you know who you are as, a person and what your purpose is and how you want to show up, and you fully embrace and own your strengths,
Hmm. Hmm.
and you just put that whole package together. I mean, it's really kind of lining up your true self, your highest self, whatever somebody wants to call it.
Right.
You line that up, the work comes more naturally. I think you become more authentic to your clients. People want to do business with you. And I just feel like the wealth follows.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
if you're not happy when you have $5,000 a month, if you won't be happy with $10,000 a month or $20,000 a month. It's a fallacy, unfortunately, that, we think that, for some reason, gosh, if I can just somehow double my income, like my money problems will go away and then I will, I'll be happy. It just doesn't happen. and we
It's an
just
inner
don't see
shift.
that.
It really is an inner shift that has to happen.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's fascinating. You talk about neuro wealth, so I think this is what was leading right into this, right? It's like, what does that mean, neuro wealth?
Neuro-wealth is really like the process of aligning your mind, because everything I mean, if you think about it, I mean, look wherever you are, wherever you're listening from right now, um, look around the room. Like if you're driving in your car, just whatever it is, somebody had that concept. Somebody had that idea for that car or that lamp that's next to your desk. It was a concept before it was a reality.
Mhm.
And so for all of us, what is that subconscious programming that we're dealing with? Because, I mean, I'm sure you talk about this a lot, right? It's, 95% is subconscious, and we want that working for us, not against us.
Right.
And, I'll just say if somebody's, finds himself always hitting um, a similar level of debt. Like I've had this so many times where people are like, gosh, Amy, like I had $15,000 of debt. I paid it off. And then I got $15,000 of debt again. And then I paid it off. And like, lo and behold, I'm at 15,000. I'm like, that is your energetic threshold of what you, I guess, find as acceptable debt. You're not going to go over the 15,000, but there's also some self-sabotage there that you keep getting yourself in those habits.
Mm,
And so when we start to understand, why we think the way that we think about money, it not only helps with how you personally deal with it, but, think about like how you show up inside of your relationship.
yeah.
And like that's just crazy sometimes when I'm like sitting in front of two people and I'm like, okay, well, what's the expectation? Like, when do you get a new car? And one person's like, oh, you drive it into the ground, and the other person's like, no, every 2 years. And then they look at each other like, oh my gosh, we've
We're
already been married for 6 months and we've never had this conversation. It's that to me is kind of interesting, but we form a lot of rules in our life about what's possible. But some of that deeper work, I think, unfortunately, money mindset,
Yeah.
um I mean, it's good that a lot of people, bandy that term around. I think
Mhm,
that that's a
mhm.
good thing, but I just think it touches the surface. I mean,
Interesting.
mindset, do you have a positive mindset, a growth mindset? Is it
Yeah,
negative? Are you
yeah,
indifferent? I mean,
yeah. But you're
it
kinda
kind of,
looking at more some underlying fundamental, beliefs that are there
well, I want to
underneath
know
the.
why you have that mindset. Like,
Yeah,
what is your
yeah,
identity? Because your identity is really telling me that's what you feel is possible or not possible. Like, somebody like their identity is someone like, I just suck at math. Like, that's just who I am. I suck at math.
yeah.
So it doesn't really matter what your mindset is. If you tell me that you suck at math, then like that tells me that I don't even try. I stopped looking at my bank statements. Like
Right, right.
I can kind of infer some things around that. And I even think that there's a layer deeper. And that's really kind of where the neuro wealth comes in is, I mean, I found, it's a discipline called neuroeconomics, and like there's a whole science around it now.
Oh,
And we
wow.
study how our brain works with money. And my background is in pharma, in the neuroscience sector. So I was just
You
naturally
were just
drawn to
geeking out
that.
on this.
Yeah, I mean, I have textbooks. I buy them off of Amazon. I'm a total dork when it comes to that because I love reading about it, but I understand like the cognitive biases and how it causes us to, buy things and yet it's still hanging in the closet with tags on it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
When you start to kind of understand it, then you can manage it because there's an awareness around it.
That's fascinating. That's really fascinating. So you're uncovering in that work, basically what you're doing is you're uncovering what are the patterns that are there, and then what's underneath that pattern that helps create that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's probably said better than I said it. Yes.
No, it's fascinating. It's really
It's
fascinating.
fun.
Yeah. So what is your take on having a healthy money mindset, and is the solution to women feeling more confident with money? So I think we're kind of we've answered that in some ways, but do you want to expand on that at all?
Well, I mean, I love that people are talking mindset. They're understanding. And I think that as a culture, we're starting, I hope, to kind of move away from just this doing mindset.
Yeah.
in understanding that our thoughts
Totally.
are very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But, you and I are in that space where,
Right.
we're talking about it. Our friends are talking about it. Our networking groups are talking about it. So, I mean, I don't want to say wholeheartedly that everybody has, embraced this concept, but I do hope and I do see a shift towards that. But I'm at the spot where I want to let people know that if, they've done the therapy, they've written the affirmations, they've got a really pretty journal, they write out their SMART goals, they do this every year, or even, they've done their vision boards, um, and they still feel stuck, struggling, uh, frustrated, or overwhelmed. Like there's a reason for that.
So
And
there's
when you
there's
can,
deeper things that you can find.
yeah, once you start to
Yeah.
go deeper, I love it when the light bulb comes on for folks. And I had a client once, she said that she just felt like the world was sort of gray and black and white before that. And then afterwards, when she saw herself and like really understood like her deeper self and her thinking, she felt like the world was just technicolor after that. And
That's so
so,
cool.
um, again, it's just a beautiful thing to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
that's a lot of fun for me.
That's so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah.
If you could fast forward 10 years into the future and see the transformation that women and how women are handling their money and approach wealth, what would you love to see happen?
Well, I definitely believe, I mean, there's three buckets to earn money or
Mm-hmm.
to build wealth.
Mm-hmm.
There's the income that you earn, there's how you manage it, and then there's your investments. And I think right now, I see most women, for example, but I would say even like a lot of people just focused on the management,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
not really working on kind of blowing up the income bucket.
Right.
But I would just love to see that shift go from income, management, investment, because investments are an afterthought. In the
Right.
future, I would love for women to have that self worth, to know that they're a great investment and start investing in themselves, not feel guilty about investing in themselves. Um, asking their spouses for support, not
Yep.
permission.
Yep.
Um, and investing in themselves, because then that's how you start to grow the income.
Yeah.
I think the management part is, kind of like the last piece of the puzzle. Like do that last.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Invest in yourself, figure out how to bring more value to the table. And then, grow your income, ask for what you're worth. And then obviously like the management part, I think is kind of the easier part.
Yeah, I think that's
Um,
really fascinating because so often that's where the focus is versus or it can be on the growth of their income. I mean that definitely can be a focus as well. But I think you really build a healthy system when you have all three, is what you're
yeah.
pointing out here.
Well, and it is, I love that you said system, because it really is an ecosystem.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
what's interesting is the ecosystem, the petri dish, if you will, that the ecosystem is in, is your mind.
yeah,
And every single component of that is influenced by your thoughts, by your
yeah,
subconscious, by your, internal barriers and beliefs that you have.
yeah.
And so yeah, your income can grow as much as you feel comfortable that it can grow. So,
So cool. So cool. I'd love to hear a little bit about the growth of your business, just so because there's so many of our women entrepreneurs and you've built a really incredible business. What has been your biggest lesson you've learned as an entrepreneur in really taking your business to that next level?
so I'm afraid this is going to sound a little foolish or maybe naive. And maybe because I was in, corporate for almost 20 years, but I honest to God thought that like I had a business card and I got a website. I honestly thought like that was it. Open for business, like let the floodgates like open. Um, I looking back in the 10, almost 11 years that I've been doing this, I'm actually a little shocked just how many times my business has evolved, my
Yeah.
branding is involved, my marketing has evolved. And again, like, does that sound naive? I don't know, but I
I was
am
surprised. I would have never guessed that my business would have taken as many shapes and forms as it did over the course of
yeah,
the years.
yeah,
Because
and
I've
so I think, that kind of that lesson for me was just, Amy, gosh, like, it's okay that it's not set. It's like a baby. Like you want
yeah,
it to grow. You want it to start to walk. You want
yeah,
to start wearing toddler clothes. Like you want it to evolve. So it was like a big shift for me.
yeah.
Realizing that my business is going to keep evolving
Yeah, and where
and
we're
that's
at now,
okay.
and it's gonna keep, like, if we look at our businesses 5 years from now, they'll have
Yeah.
a different shape to them, and so it is really fascinating, and I love that part where businesses are really reforming, reshaping into their whatever that what's next looks like for them. It's really
Yeah.
fun to work with.
Yeah, but I want to say that I hope most women like something happened when I turned 40 where I sort of like quit caring what people thought as much. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah,
just sort of
yeah,
come into your own at 40.
yeah,
And now
yeah.
that I'm 51 now. So like now that I'm past 50, it's like there's this whole other layer of confidence comes in and I'm trying to sort of think of my business in that way that it's okay and I need to just stay really clear about what are my non-negotiables?
Yeah,
Is this decision aligned with my values? And it's okay to say no.
yeah, yeah,
It's okay to
totally,
change. Even if you've had a
totally.
program for like 3 years and you
Yeah,
want to sunset it, it's
yeah.
okay.
It's okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
and listening to that inner wisdom will often guide us too, right? It's like
Yes. Yeah.
this feels light, this feels heavy, starting to make those choices off of what really lights you up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. So where can people learn more about you and your work?
They can head to my website, which is just my name, amywestbrook.com, or all the social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, is Live the Capital Life.
Nice, nice, nice. And do you have anything exciting coming up?
I do. And I'm actually, this was my big decision that I made was to start a membership because I
Oh,
want women to fully embrace like their bucket list and be excited about it and like be around other women that are having those conversations about thinking bigger.
yeah,
And then also, how do we align who you are with these big decisions? And then that final component is, giving you the skills, the financial skills to make it happen. So,
nice. I
yeah,
love it.
I
I
it
love
was
it.
the membership that I couldn't find because, a lot of people talk about manifestation. A lot
Hmm.
of people, can coach you on I didn't want to be a business coach, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so, I was like, how do I get women thinking big, like the life coach in me? And then how do I make it so it happens?
yeah.
I was like, my contribution is helping with the money.
That's cool. So they can go to your website. Can they find it on your website now, or is it
Not yet. It's like
not
that
yet?
new, but it's going to be up probably, in the next couple of weeks.
Okay,
So,
cool.
yeah.
Probably by the time this launches, it'll be there then.
Yeah, so
So
I really
excellent,
hope people will come and check it out. I am so excited about this.
cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then the final question I always close with are: what are three pearls of wisdom you'd like to leave with our audience today?
Um, one of my, things that I think is really important is we're not broken. And so much of the language out there is, let us fix you. Let's fix your problem. You're not broken. You have absolutely everything inside of you that you need. You might have just forgotten that it's there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So just need to excavate it and find it again. Um, the other pearl of wisdom is work from possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Don't work from circumstance.
I
If
love
you
it.
work from circumstance, you're going to be limiting what's next for you.
Yeah,
And it's just the way to go bigger. And
that's
then my
brilliant. That's a
final,
brilliant one.
thank you. Yeah. Well, and I had to learn it myself. I mean, that's
Yeah,
why I'm sharing these.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
um, And I would say anytime like the other pearl is, when I see people frustrated, like they're doing, just hit the pause button and ask yourself, like, what's my thinking behind what I'm doing? And
yeah,
sometimes when you just hit the pause button, like all of a sudden, like this big light shines over, I would say, the problem. A lot of
yeah,
people are trying to treat the symptoms.
Yeah.
and just giving yourself a moment to figure out like what the real root of the problem is,
Mm,
will save you a lot of money sometimes, and maybe even years of this hustle that we've gotten caught up in.
so good. So good. Well, Amy, this has been so much fun and so much good wisdom that you've shared today. But thank
Thank
you for
you.
joining us.
Yeah, it was exciting. Thank you.
Yeah.